Hi everyone and welcome to episode 28 of the Link Building Show, and today we're here with Fran and we're going to talk about maximising coverage for a campaign.
So first question is, what do you mean by maximizing coverage?
Okay, so maximising coverage in this sense, I'm basically talking about when you do a campaign, just getting the most amount of links possible, and it's not essentially, it doesn't matter down to just sending a campaign a lot. It can be that, but it can also be making individual sends. So this can be in the sense of regionals, for example, sending to different areas to get links for regional journalists. So that way would be an example as well. That would probably be the main example. But also sending to, so say if you have a list of celebrities, you would send individual sends to people who have reported on each celebrity in that list. So that's another example. Yeah.
Can you give examples of you maximizing coverage?
Okay, so I think a good example that I have that I'm quite happy with is when I did the longest hospital wait times campaign, and that was a statewide campaign in the US. So for this, I basically made a bottom 10, a top 10, and they had the full 50 states from the data set that I had. So I sent to each state in the top 10, each state in the bottom 10 with a headline representative of each. So I would include the state in each headline for each send. I'd find 100-ish journalists from each state that were appropriate to the story, and I'd send it to them individually. And then for the top 50, I just did like a general send. I sent the top 50 out to a bunch of medical journalists, a bunch of regional journalists with states that I haven't included. And then from that, I got some links alone. I think that was a campaign that I did stick with. I wanted to get it out because I knew it was a good idea, so I stuck with it for a couple of weeks, and I really pushed it out. I think just medical state sends, I did a bunch of regionals, even cities I went as far as doing. I even sent it out to like international as well, so not just the US but Canada as well, people in the US who reported on Canadian news and vice versa. So just a lot of sends out for that campaign.
You can do something similar for the UK. For example,
Yeah.
I had a campaign which had to do with the best results in A levels last year. And obviously there was both, yes, a top 10 and a bottom 5, let's say. And it was, I think, it was areas, more specifically counties. So for each of these counties, I found like a bunch of journalists that would cover education or like regional papers that would most likely cover this kind of stuff, and just send them out to them as much as I could, as tailored as I could, the lists.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you can do it for basically everywhere if you just divide your data efficiently.
Mm-hmm. That's good, yeah, that's good.
So next question is, how do you go about maximizing coverage?
Okay, so I think what I like to do, when in the US, I like to use a tool called Muckrack that we have. Basically what I do for that, I make sure the range of the reporters is set to local, so it would be reporters that report on local news. I then set location, so it basically comes up with reporters who would report on stuff in a certain state or a certain city only. It wouldn't be like national reporters, so it would help me distinguish which people I should be sending to for my regional pieces. I think that is really helpful. I think just going through and then also finding news desks. News desks I've had quite a lot of success with, because all it takes is one person looking at that news desk to love your story, and then they'll send it to their editor or writer or whatever. So I think just trying to distinguish between with regionals, local reporters as well. And then also what I like to do is the keyword search on there as well. I think this is a good thing in sports. Like sports, for example, you might have a top 10 players list. So what I do is I find reporters who are reported on that player, and then I also find the team that player plays for, and I will look at reporters that reported on that team as well. I think just anything that you can attach a player to a journalist or a team to a journalist, I think just send it, and all it takes is one journalist to find your story interesting, really.
What are the best topics for maximizing coverage?
Well, I think there's quite a few, really. I think I'd like to say sports would be my one as well. I think regional pieces, and I don't, that could be anything. So pretty much anything where there is a place name, city name, state name, anything, you can definitely maximize. If you really wanted to get the most amount of links out of a story, you could send to, like I said, all the states, all the cities in a data set.
Yeah, because regional news desk or like regional news desks are not really concentrating on one thing. It's more of a like
just general
place where you can like just send stuff, and they're going to basically cover anything interesting that has to do with their region, the city, their state.
Yeah.
So,
I think as well, so for example, you could do tech. Tech is a good one. So I found there are like individual reporters for, like, say with the console wars, you've got people who report on Xbox news, people report on PlayStation news, people report on Switch news. Like, say if you've got a big list of like tech items, you've got people who report on just iPhones, people who report on just Samsung phones. I think just doing your research and seeing what journalists primarily focus on is just a really good way of maximizing coverage. That's something I haven't done as much. I haven't done as many tech campaigns, but I've done that in the past and I found it to be really successful as well. Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Link Building Show. We'll see you in the next one and we hope you've learned something.